Before I get going on today's monologue and looking at the things I want to look at in today's show, I just want to say a big thank you, of course, to all those lovely people who email in. Just to remind you, I can't always reply. I do try to read all the emails as much as I can. And big thank you to everybody who makes any donation whatsoever to the channel, because it really helps me keep going. Also, I want to add just that occasionally you'll see on the YouTube channel in the comments and in other places pretend accounts pretending to be me. This is unfortunately one of those things that happens when you put your head above the parapet and you're saying things that some people find, well, not to their liking, or they want to scam you because they see you as a popular sort of chap and try and divert you to different bank accounts or to divulge your public information or your personal information, I should say. So please be aware of whom you are talking to, even if they have the same profile picture as me. On YouTube, I have an official tick. I'm very lucky, so you would know that's me. If it doesn't have the official tick, then it's not me. But also on Telegram, I noticed this morning somebody alerted me to the fact that someone was scamming me and trying to get people to send them money pretending to be me. So I just make that clear. I don't elicit that on WhatsApp, and I don't elicit any of that on Telegram. So just be very careful. And I won't be doing that on YouTube as well. In the comments, if you want to make a donation, you can only do that by looking in the description of my videos. That said, let's move on to the topic of conversation in today's show, because yesterday we had very interesting feedback from those people who were fascinated to hear about the 12 presumptions of court of the law. And in many cases, if you take those presumptions, you don't even end up in court, which is good news for a lot of people. After all, the summons is only an invitation. It's not that thing about being summoned from the dead and you've got to do it necessarily. But remember, none of this is legal advice. I am not a lawyer, and you obviously have to do your due diligence. All I'm trying to do is make you aware of stuff that might be hidden from you by those people who want to infringe your rights. Anyway, so I was alerted to the Nolan sisters yesterday. I'm in the mood for dancing, romance. No, sorry, it wasn't the Nolan sisters. It was the Nolan Principles, the 7 principles of public life. And if we go to government website, gov.uk, we can actually find them there. And if you want to sing along, you'll be very welcome. So here we go. I thought it'd be interesting to see if our public servants, those people we think of as public servants, remember, however, that even this is somewhat misleading, because these so-called public servants are actually employees of corporations like the Office of the Prime Minister, like the House of Commons, like the courts, all registered on Dun & Bradstreet as businesses there for profit, not what you might think of as an assembly of people who have been elected by the members of the public. So this in and of itself is a little misleading. But let's see what they say our public officers should be adhering to. You may not have heard of the I'm in the mood for dancing Nolan Principles. Let's have a look. So the 7 principles of public life. Number 1 here, the 7 principles of public life, also known as the Nolan Principles, apply to anyone who works as a public office holder. This includes all those who are elected or appointed to public office nationally and locally, and all people appointed to work in the civil service, local government, the police, courts and probation services, non-departmental public bodies, which is the acronym is here as NDBPS, which actually you can't pronounce, and in the health, education, social and care services. All public officers are both servants of the public and stewards of public resources. The principles also apply to all those in other sectors delivering public services. Now, I don't know whether you would consider me as a public servant with my YouTube channel trying to do public services, but I'm not actually paid by anybody other than the ad revenue that comes in from the beginning and end of the videos, and the wonderful donations that you help to keep this going. So I'm not really under the government employer. I'm a completely sole trader. But we're all doing things, and maybe some of these principles are quite good for people who are trying to deliver anything. But the people who are paid, that we pay out of our taxes, they ought to be applying these principles. And let's see if they really are, shall we? Let's find out if you agree with me that maybe they're a little off kilter. So the first one, as you can see there, is selflessness. Holders of public office should act solely in terms of the public interest. Now, we mentioned courts. They're supposed to be operating in the public services, aren't they? So selflessness. So they should selflessly let you know if, for example, any of them working in the courts have taken an oath to the private bar guild, or whether they have taken a public oath, and whether there's a conflict or a controversy between the two. I mention that again because we were talking about that yesterday in the 12 Presumptions of Law, and if you missed that, do go and check it out. What else should they be doing? Let's have another little gander here. Integrity. The holders of public office must avoid placing themselves under any obligation to people or organisations that might try inappropriately to influence them in their work. Let's just pause there. When they say inappropriately influence them in their work, is that like, telling them to make contracts with me, mate, because I've got a very good firm of PPI and things like that? Politicians come under this heading of public service. Should they be doing that? And if not, should we not be holding them to account? Maybe if they are not doing the correct thing, if they're influencing people in the wrong way and not saying, oh, hang on a minute, these medical interventions are safe and effective. And they're not actually reporting this back up the chain, because a lot of MPs, as you may have noticed, sing from the same hymn sheet. Maybe they are not actually adhering to the I feel the mood for, the Nolan Principles. You don't have to sing along with me if you rather not. Let's have a look. They should, it says here, carrying on this bit, they should not act or take decisions in order to gain financial or material benefit for themselves or their family or their friends. They must declare and resolve any interests and relationships. Do you think that goes on with councillors, for example, when it comes to a lot of these new builds that are being built here, there and everywhere, where people say, oh no, we'd rather not have that. And oh, hang on a minute, what's this in my back pocket, this lovely brown envelope full of, well, I think we'll have it anyway. I think it's in the public interest, don't you? Of course it's in the public. And yet they may be, and I'm not saying they are, of course, but they may be being influenced by people who are shoving certain amounts of monetary incentives, let's say, into their little back pocket. Let's see what other things these public people should actually be doing, because I am in the mood to find out what they are. So the next one is objectivity. Holders of public office must act and take decisions impartially, fairly, and on merit, using the best evidence and without discrimination or bias. I don't think I even need to make much of a comment on that, do I? Because clearly there is so much rot going on, rot in the government, rot in the councils, rot everywhere you look. A lot of the policies that are coming out, you may have noticed, are anti-human. Anti-human. Cameras stopping you from travelling about, registering your or recording your number plate. Supermarkets, okay, they're not public servants, but these surveillance cameras all over the place, taking your biometrics, 5G that you've not actually asked for, going up, and you've not, unaccountable. They're making decisions and actions that decisions that nobody's actually asked for. I said I needn't make a comment, but I just did. Let's go and have a look at accountability then. Holders of public office are accountable to the public for their decisions and actions and must submit themselves to the scrutiny necessary to ensure this. So if they are making decisions and actions that we disagree with and we want to ask them, they must, as it says there, they must submit themselves to scrutiny. It's no good, as we saw in Thetford the other day, if you happen to see that, where the council were having a meeting and somebody happened to ask an awkward question. They all got up and they all said, oh, no, we can't possibly carry on with this meeting. There's somebody speaking above their time. We're not going to listen to that. And they all went off in the back office and had sandwiches and leaving the council meeting apparently sort of void. What should have happened is if they'd left their posts, then those public people should have resumed the meeting saying, well, OK, you've gone. You clearly have abandoned your position. We will take over. They must submit themselves to scrutiny. Are they doing that? That's the question. I mean, these principles are there. They're for us, the ordinary members of the public, to use, and we ought to use them. Let's see what else they should say. Here we go. Number 5, openness. Holders of public office should act and take decisions in an open and transparent manner. How often do you think that goes on? Information should not be withheld from the public unless there are clear and lawful reasons to do so. So when you say, excuse me, Mr. Council Tax Manager, I'd like to see the liability, please, for this. Where is the contract? Where did I agree to pay your council tax? Instead of just sending me a demand and not actually sending me a bill, where is it? Where did we both sign in a contract which was lawful? You must disclose this. You must not withhold from the public the information. They've got to tell you. They've got to tell you. It says here on the government's own website. Just bear in mind that they are, in fact, really a corporation. So do they have to adhere by any of this? I wonder if actually, being a private company, that this is just to make you feel as if they are doing the right thing. But maybe it's not the case. Let's have a look at number 6, honesty. That one is quite laughable. Holders of public office should be truthful. I'll just pause whilst you're laughing insensely and you're on the floor with your legs in the air, clutching your belly. Just give it a moment there to recover yourselves and you take that big fat grin off your face. Yes, they're supposed to be truthful. I'm in the mood for truthful. I feel like truthness. Right, and finally, ladies and gentlemen, and I feel like I'm on That's Life, and finally, a cat in Margate managed to do a smile of its own. No, and finally, leadership. Number 7, holders of public office should exhibit these principles in their own behaviour and treat others with respect. They should actively promote and robustly support the principles and challenge poor behaviour wherever it occurs. I don't know too much about that, not being in the public. I mean, if you work for these people, if you're an employee of these big corporations who pretend to be public services and you see the leadership is not doing that, you should, of course, be able to report them and be a whistleblower and tell others without any fear of retribution. You should be able to go and do that and tell the public if things aren't going well. Because after all, if you are named as one of the parties who are complicit with this, then of course you are liable. You will be liable. So if the leadership is not working, if your MP, for example, who also comes under all of these, is not if you work for an MP's office and he's not answering the letters properly, if he is not, for example, taking the complaint seriously, if he's not showing leadership, you should be reporting him. Absolutely, you should be. You should be telling the public. You should be exploding this on all social media. I wouldn't go to the newspapers and mainstream media because they're not interested. They're all sort of biased anyway. But anyway, there we are. The Nolan Principles. What do you think about that? Have you ever heard of them? Of course, notice at the top here, it does say guidance. It does say guidance. So we know what guidance is like. During the lockdown, we were all told a lot of guidance, and a lot of the members of the public, they all thought that they had to do that. They all thought that it was law or that it was legal, but it was only guidance. And this is these 7 principles of public life. It's only guidance. So really and truly, it means nothing. It just means nothing. It's just guidance. It's just guidance. They haven't got to do any of this. They don't have to do any of this anyway, because actually they're all corporations. They're private companies pretending to be public services. And the sooner the sooner the better that we learn that and know that these so-called public services, which have guidance, not actual laws or policy that they actually have to go by. It's just guidance, so they can squirm about and go, it's only guidance, and it's only guidance. We don't have to apply it. It's just guidance. In an ideal world, yes. But it's just guidance. So there we go. I was in the mood for dancing. I'm not so sure now that I've spotted that it's just guidance. Don't forget to like, subscribe and follow. Keep away from all the scam sites that pretend to be me. That's a bit of guidance for you. And it's good guidance, I can tell you. Interested to see your comments. Thanks for watching. See you next time.